What's going on, guys? Happy Wednesday. Hope you guys are doing well. If not, it will get better. So, I'm going to be talking about The Flash, Season 3, Episode 1, titled Flashpoint. So, I'm going to tell you guys basically the premise, and then my likes, and then my dislikes. So, pretty much, Barry goes back in time, saves his mom from being killed. Now, in 3 months, he's been living his normal life. His parents are alive. Everything's different. Um, he doesn't know Iris. Cisco is rich, the richest man in America. Wally is the new Flash. There's a evil speedster called the Rival. Caitlin is a pediatric for kids. Joe is a drunk and not really good at being an officer. Like, he's not really there at his job. Eobard Thawne is locked up in a cage where it dampens his speed, so he's unable to escape. So that's basically the whole premise. And then eventually Barry starts to lose his memory, and Reverse Flash tells him that the more memory you lose, the permanent that timeline will be. There's nothing you can do to fix that. So now they're on a mission to fix and correct the timeline. And within that, when Eobard Thawne does eventually take Barry back to the right time, things are still not the same. They're the same for Eobard, but they're not the same for Barry. Iris and Joe have this distant relationship, and we don't know why, and I guess we'll know more in the next episode. Here are my likes and dislikes, because I love The Flash. I really do. It's a great series. It's just I wasn't really pleased all the way. Like 100%, I was not pleased with this episode. I'm a little bummed out that they just ended Flashpoint. Like, yep, here it is. Now it's gone. Now let's move on. And I didn't really like that. So here are my likes. And there's not that many, but here are my likes. I like the fact that we got a chance to see Wally West as the Flash. The costume is like amazing. I want to get that costume for Halloween or something. So, but no, the costume's hella tight. It's cool to see Wally as the Flash. I like the fact that his story still pertained with him driving cars, and then the lightning happened with the nitrous mix in his car that gave him the powers and whatnot. So I like the fact that they still kept that background for Wally. I do like that. I like how Joe's personality just 360. Like, in the regular timeline, he's like a terrific dad, but in this timeline, there's the distance between him and Iris. So it was different. It was weird to see that, but I like the fact that that was the way that they made him. Just kind of like this, I don't care. Yeah, I'm a cop, but I got my own life to live kind of thing. I also did like Cisco's role, him being rich and kind of like this kind of jerk a little bit. So I did like that, but I like the fact that Barry was able to still see goodness in him. And I like the dialogue that Reverse Flash had, telling Barry what's going on and things like that. Those are like the, I guess, some of the things I like, but I have more dislikes than I do likes. And the dislikes I have with this episode was that it really bothered me. Like, okay, so when you watch the first season, that opening was terrific. You know, it shows the fight between Flash and Reverse Flash, and then he kills his mom and things like that. So, I like that opening, and then the whole season, which is great. And then the ending, when Barry tries to go back to save his mom, and he sees his other self, and he's like, I like that. Second season, the opening was cool too. When he goes to that storm cloud, and then you see Firestorm sacrifice himself so that the storm cloud doesn't suck everything in. And I thought that was a great opening. And then season two was really good. A couple of hit and miss here and there, but overall I thought it was pretty good. And I I liked the way it ended when this big finale of like Barry actually going back and saving his mom. And it led to a lot of theories and whatnot. I thought that was really cool to have that conversation. By no means does this mean that the rest of the season is going to be bad or anything like that. I just feel like this episode just wasn't as strong for me as I wanted it to be. It opens with, you know, Barry explaining what happened in the last season, and it shows him living his normal life and things like that. And so my dislike was, one of the biggest dislikes I really had was the rival. I didn't like the costume, so to speak. I understand why they had the costume like that to distinct between him and Flash, Kid Flash. Don't call him that. But I didn't like the rival suit. That little fins he had in the side. It reminded, honestly, all I kept thinking about was Shadow from Sonic the Hedgehog. You know what I mean? I didn't like that when he took off the mask and it was like, I'm Edward Claris, and then puts it back on. I was just like, all right. Like, what bothers me about the rival is that they gave his background story to Hunter Zolomon in the last season with him using Velocity 9 to get faster. That was the rival. The rival is Jay Garrick's opposite, Flash. And I don't like that they gave his background story to Hunter Zolomon, and we didn't even get a background story with Edward Claris. I know there was that ending where it shows him walking to the mirror and it spells out alchemy. I don't know what that's supposed to mean or how that's going to connect, but I guess we'll learn more in the next episode. But that's one of the things that I did not like was the rival. I mean, it's cool to see two speedsters go at it, you know? The effects are always cool. I felt like there was nothing detrimental about the timeline. Like, I wanted to see, like, the way Joe was, I wanted everybody to be like that. Like, I wanted Cisco to be like a jerk to where it was like, he's like you kind of hate him in a way. Like, it would have been cool to hate Cisco. I love Cisco, my favorite character, but I wanted to kind of hate him for being so rich that he's a jerk. He did come off as like he didn't really care, but it just didn't feel like it was too much heart for me to actually think that he was a jerk, if that makes sense. So that's one of the things I kind of like dislike. It just felt like things were just too happy. Like everything was just too Pleasantville for me. And like I said, I get it because it's a different reality that Barry wanted to create, you know, because of his selfishness to save his mom and things like that. But, you know, I didn't really feel a big epic moment in that episode, you know? Like, I wanted to see Barry, like so when he first talking to Iris and trying to talk to her, and he looks on the news and he sees Kid Flash and Rival go at it, it would have been cool to see Barry leave the coffee shop and like fall down like he did in the animated cartoon. I would have loved to have seen this episode, or I would have loved to have seen a 2-part episode. Like they just did this episode and then just ended. Here's Flashpoint, now it's gone. I would have loved to have seen a 2-part episode, or I would have loved to have seen a whole season based on this timeline. It would have been nice to see it more closer to the animated cartoon. So, I don't know. I just felt like everybody kind of had this good life. Like Caitlin had a good life. She was a doctor for kids. I feel like Iris had a good life. But overall, like if I had to rate this episode, I would just give it like a 7 out of a 10. Now, mind you, this is not to say that I don't like The Flash or whatever the case. I actually love The Flash, and I'm going to continue to support the series and whatnot. I just wish that this episode would have just been a little bit, like I said, it could have had like a 2-parter, and I would have been fine with that because then it fleshes out the story a little more. It fleshes out Rival a little more. Again, I liked Wally West. I did like the Joe West flip. And I understand that they were trying to pay a little homage to the 1990 Flash, or not 1990 Flash, but the 1990s Flash. I can appreciate that they had Julio Hernandez, or is it Hernandez? Julio Mendez. I'm sorry, Julio Mendez. He was the original character. He was like the Cisco before Cisco in the 1990s Flash. So I get they trying to pay a little homage to that, but again, I was just like, why was he there? Like, what was the reason for him being a captain? Like, that wasn't explained. Another scene that wasn't explained was when Cisco says, and I'm probably paraphrasing, but when Cisco says, "Don't trust a speedster because this happens to you." A hand through the chest. And I'm thinking, like, how would he know a speedster can do that? That was never explained. I feel like it was just too many like bits and pieces that weren't explained that didn't make the episode whole, if that makes sense. Uh, Overall, my enjoyment would be 8 out of 10. You know, I enjoyed this episode, but as far as the episode itself, I'm gonna give it a 7 out of 10. I am interested in the Iris and Joe relationship. Like when Barry came back, and then he's like, "Where's Iris?" And Joe's like, "That's funny," and then he walks away. So I am curious to see like why Iris and Joe have this kind of distant relationship. I wonder if she's the Wally West of that time. You know what I mean? And there's a lot of time in this. There's like 5 timelines we've now seen with Barry. There was the original one when the show first started, when he went back in time, when he was trying to stop Weather Wizard, and he's running around in circles so many times. The one where he showed Iris who he was. He went back in time then. That was a timeline. When he went back to learn how to get faster and then came back and then Pied Piper was a good guy, that was a timeline. Um, Him going back to save his mother was a timeline, and the Eobard Thawne taking him back to the new timeline that we saw at the end of the episode, that's a timeline too. So there's a lot of timelines. So it almost makes you wonder, like, which one is Barry trying to keep up with and what's going on. So again, I am curious to know what's going on for the rest of the season, how it fleshes out and whatnot. But I just feel like this episode just wasn't as epic as the way the first one and the second one came on. So, what did you guys think? Did you like the episode? Were you okay with this? What are you curious to see? What do you want to know? Let's talk about this. Leave comments and let's open this discussion. So, I guess until then, I will see you guys. Thank you for watching. I appreciate it. If you like what you saw, hit that like button. If you want to see more, subscribe. And until then, thank you for watching Reviews to View. And I will see you guys next week.